Welcome to Lost in Thoughts, a space for stories, reflections, and life's absurdities. Who am I? Well, I'm someone like you, navigating this wild world, often getting a little lost along the way. But maybe, just maybe, getting lost is how we find what matters most. So sit back, relax, and let's explore this beautiful mess together. Today I bring you a story I found or came across on Instagram. And it's a sad story in a sense, or maybe it isn't sad. You be the judge of that. But it's about a man who I would describe. Let's set the setting. There's this guy who is probably in his 40s, 50s, maybe 60s, right? And he's a blue collar, what we call like your average Joe, blue collar guy, probably works in construction or electrician or something of that sort, and he's going through his things, maybe his tools, and he comes across a roll of wire. Maybe it's copper, I don't know exactly what it's made out of, but let's say it's copper for description purposes. A roll of wire, and this wire he's had for 40 years. And he's alone, sitting there reflecting, and he comes across it and realizes that he's had this spool of wire for 40 years and there's only a little bit left. And somehow, some way, he's reflecting on this. His wife comes, and this is where we catch the scene, where she's recording and asking him what he's doing outside. It looks like he's on the front porch, or in between the garage or something like that, and he's becoming somewhat emotional. And it's the type of guys that are not typically emotional. These are types of guys who kind of protect and shield their feelings. They're told to suck it up, and so he's there, and he's in this reflection. He's becoming vulnerable, and he's describing this scene of what I just said. He's had this spool of wire for 40 years, and there's just a little bit left. And his wife just cracks a joke at him, almost brushes it off as if it didn't have any real meaning. And then he gets up and walks away and says, forget it, And a lot of people are, she's probably catching a lot of heat online. I think when I first saw it, I didn't like her response to it, but at the same time, I don't know the dynamics of their relationship, and maybe that's just how she deals with it. Maybe she's not an emotional person, or maybe she doesn't know what to do when her husband is acting unusual, and maybe it's a form of defense or a form of diffusion to soften the sentiment, but it cuts at that scene. And a lot of guys are resonating with a lot of guys in this way, in a negative way of saying, this is why men don't open up to women, because women don't know how to deal with it. And in some cases that may be true, but I think men are reflecting, or the story resonates with men in a way, kind of like when this, I don't know if you've heard this term, but when you're going to a museum and you see a piece that speaks to you, a piece of art that speaks to you, whether it's a painting, a sculpture, or whatever, the art that resonates with you speaks more about you than the art itself. It's like you've made a connection. You see something in it that resonates with you in that way. And I think a lot of men resonate with this guy who's, in a sense, pouring out his heart in his own way, talking about this spool of wire and how much is left and how little is left. I think he was trying to make a connection of there's only a little bit of his life left. And what has he really achieved in these last 40 years? I mean, he can reflect and say, you know what, I've created a lot of things, I've built a lot of things, and I'm happy for it. Or he can say, where did the time go? What the hell did I do with my 40 years? Was it good enough? Or did I just waste it away? And the other all-important question left was, how much time do I really have left? You know? How many more projects does he have before that spool of wire is finished? I think that's the real thing he was trying to convey to his wife. But there was another video shortly after where he's kind of apologizing and defending his wife. And I don't know if that's from him or from her, but that one didn't really have the same connection to me, because it's just like, you know, you put that out there and it was raw, you know. I think guys resonated with it and just really related to it. Of there are times when you really put your heart out trying to explain how you really feel, and sometimes your partner or the person you're talking to doesn't have to be a partner, it could be a friend, it could be, you know, your child or your parents, you know, someone close to you that you feel confident enough to lower your walls and your barriers to say these things, because you're vulnerable, and what you really want to be is heard. And I think there's a lot of men out there that are not being heard, and I think it's also part of, unfortunately, being a man. So it was an interesting story, and it was, I mean, only, I want to say a few seconds, but man, I really understood him. I don't know if so much I related to him, but I understood where he was coming from. And when she blew it off in her joking, kidding manner, he got up frustrated, and I can understand that part of him, at least that little snippet. Like I said, not knowing the full dynamics of the relationship, but in that one moment, his frustration was loud and clear. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Lost in Thoughts. I am grateful to each and every one of you. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.